ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं
नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं
ततो जयमुदीरयेत्।
ततो
ततो जयमुदीरयेत्।
नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु
नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु
नित्यं भागवत सेवया
नित्यं भागवत सेवया
भगवती उत्तम श्लोके
भगवती उत्तम श्लोके
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी।
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी।
Reading from chapter 9, titled The Most Confidential Knowledge from Bhagavad Gita, and the verse number is 34. Manmana bhava madbhakto
मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो
madhyaji mam namaskuru
अद्यादि मां नमस्कुरु
mama vishaishi yuktavaivam
मामेव ऐषसि युक्तैव
atmanam matparayana.
आत्मानं मत्परायणः।
Manmana bhava madbhakto
मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो
madhyaji mam namaskuru
मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु
mama vishaishi yuktavaivam
मामवैषसि युक्तैवम्
atmanam matparayana.
आत्मानं मत्परायणः।
Ini Prabhuji Mataji.
मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो
Manmana bhava madbhakto
मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु
madhyaji mam namaskuru
मामेव ऐषसि युक्तैवम्
vishaishi yuktavaivam
आत्मानं मत्परायणः।
atmanam matparayana.
मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो
मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो
मध्याजी मां नमस्कुरु
मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु
माम एवैषसि युक्तैवम्
मामेव ऐषसि युक्तैवम्
आत्मानं मत्परायणः
आत्मानं परायणम्।
मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो
मन्मना
भव मद्भक्तो
मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु
मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु
माम एभयासि युक्तभयभम
मामेवैषसि युक्तैवम्
आत्मनं मत्परायणः
आत्मानं मत्परायणः।
Word by word meaning. Matmana, always thinking of me.
Matmana, always thinking of me.
Bhava, become.
Bhava, become.
Mat, my.
My.
Bhakta, devotee.
Bhakta, devotee.
Mat, my.
My.
Yaji, worshipper.
Yaji, worshipper.
Mam, unto me.
Unto me.
Namaskuru, offer obeisances.
Namaskuru, offer obeisances.
Mam, unto me.
Mam, unto me.
Eva, completely.
Eva, completely.
Eshyasi, you will come.
Aisyasi, you will come.
Yuktavya, being absorbed.
Yuktavya, being absorbed.
Evam, thus.
Evam, thus.
Atmanam, your soul.
Atmanam, your soul.
Matparayana, devoted to me.
Matparayana, devoted to me.
Translation by His Divine Grace S.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Engage your mind always
Always
Engage
your mind always
in thinking of me.
in thinking of me.
thinking of me.
Become my devotee.
Become my
Come my
devotee.
devotee.
Offer obeisances to me
Offer obeisances to
Offer
me
obeisances to me
and worship me.
and
and
worship me.
worship me.
Being completely absorbed in me,
Being
Being
completely absorbed in
completely
me.
absorbed in me,
surely you will come to me.
Surely you will come to
surely
me.
you will come to me.
Any Prabhuji or Mataji would like to read this page?
In these works, it is clearly indicated that Krishna consciousness is the only means of being delivered from the clutches of this contaminated material world. Sometimes unscrupulous commentators distort the meaning of what is clearly stated here, that all devotional service should be offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna, unfortunately, unscrupulous commentators divert the mind of the reader to that which is not at all feasible. Such commentators do not know that there is no difference between Krishna's mind and Krishna. Krishna is not an ordinary human being. He is absolute truth. His body, his mind, and he himself are one and absolute. It is stated in the Kurma Puran, as it is quoted by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami in his Anubhashya comment on Chaitanya Charitamrut, 5th chapter, Adi Lila, verse 41-48. Deha Dehi Videho Yam Nisarva Vidyate Kvachit. This means that there is no difference in Krishna, the Supreme Lord, between himself and his body. But because the commentators do not know the science of Krishna, they hide Krishna and divide his personality from his mind or from his body. Although this is science of Krishna, some men make profit out of misleading people.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anybody else would like to read this page?
There are some who demonic. They also think of Krishna, but enviously, just like King Kansa, Krishna's uncle. He was also thinking of Krishna always, but he thought of Krishna as his enemy. He was always in anxiety, wondering when Krishna would come to kill him. That kind of thinking will not help us. One should be thinking of Krishna in devotional love. That is bhakti. One should cultivate the knowledge of Krishna continuously. What is that favorable cultivation? It is to learn from a bona fide teacher. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we have several times explained that his body is not material, but is eternal, blissful knowledge. This kind of talk about Krishna will help one become a devotee. Understanding Krishna otherwise, from the wrong source, will prove fruitless. Anybody else?
One should therefore engage his mind in the eternal form, in the primal form of Krishna, with conviction in his heart that Krishna is the supreme. He should engage himself in worship. There are hundreds of thousands of temples in India for the worship of Krishna, and devotional service is practiced there. When such practice is made, one has to offer obeisances to Krishna. One should lower his head before the deity and engage his mind, his body, his activities, everything. That will make one fully absorbed in Krishna without deviation. This will help one transfer to Krishna Loka. One should not be deviated by unscrupulous commentators. One must engage in 9 different processes of devotional service, beginning with hearing and chanting about Krishna. Pure devotional service is the highest achievement of human society.
Anyone else would like to read this page?
The 7th and 8th chapters of Bhagavad Gita have explained pure devotional service to the Lord that is free from speculative knowledge, mystic yoga, and fruitive activities. Those who are not purely sanctified with may be attracted by different features of the Lord, like the impersonal Brahma Jyoti and localized Paramatma, but a pure devotee directly takes to the service of the Supreme Lord. There is a beautiful poem about Krishna in which it is clearly stated that any person who is engaged in the worship of demigod is most unintelligent and cannot achieve at any time the supreme award of Krishna. The devotee in the beginning may sometimes fall from the standard, but still he should be considered superior to all other philosophers and yogis. One who always engages in Krishna consciousness should be understood to be a perfectly saintly person. His accidental non-devotional activities will diminish and he will soon be situated without any doubt in complete perfection. The pure devotee has no actual chance to fall down because the Supreme Godhead personally takes care of his pure devotees. Therefore, the intelligent person should take directly to the process of Krishna consciousness and happily live in this material world. He will eventually receive the supreme award of Krishna. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose to the 9th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the most confidential knowledge.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Let's all chant together. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyana Chakshurmritamena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo Namastam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakala Raghunatham Vitantam Sajivam Satvitam Savadhutam Bhajanasaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Shayana Lalita Shri Vishakhavitam He Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shavanosuti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpataruvesya Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama
Hare Hare.
Thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha where we take systematically every verse, every important verse as described, the top 108 verses one after other, and discuss. And as you heard Prabhuji speak, that this is the last verse of the 9th chapter. So Bhagavad Gita is comprising of 18 chapters. Out of 18 chapters, this is the last verse of the 9th chapter. So there are 9 more chapters. So this is the midpoint of Bhagavad Gita, and this is the last verse of the 9th chapter. So in your house, whenever you have a safe deposit box, you keep the most precious thing, most confidential thing there. Likewise, Krishna has kept the most confidential knowledge into the middle, so that gradually when you go, the real intent, like whenever you eat a sandwich, you don't call it a bread sandwich, you call it a cheese sandwich or a vegetable sandwich, because the essence is whatever is the real thing, that is given more emphasis. So that's why Krishna has kept the best thing, the most ornamental thing, the most confidential thing, the most secret thing, which needs to be protected. In your house, you will have your parents, you will have your kids, you will have little kids, but the one who needs to be most protected is often kept inside. Whenever you'll be walking, you'll see, the person who is in the middle is most protected and has to be taken more care of. Likewise, here, Krishna has kept the topmost secretive, most protective, most confidential thing right in the middle of the verse. So that's why it's very powerful. It's very confidential. So we have to take seriously about this verse. That's one thing. And the second thing is the first 2 lines of this verse, as you can see, of the 4 lines, the first 2 lines of the verse, Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto Madhyajimam Namaskuru. Krishna repeats it in 18.65. That means how much emphasis Krishna is giving to this verse. In terms of repeatability, there is no other verse which is repeated to this degree by Krishna in any line. And here, the two lines of this verse, the first two lines, in 6 months' time, in 9 months' time, we'll get to 18.65. And whenever we will end up reading, you'll realize that the first two lines are repeated there by Krishna again. That means Krishna is giving the most powerful impact to this verse. So we have to live our life trying to inculcate something from this verse. And once we get the confidential knowledge, like sometimes, what happens when you go to a dentist or when you go to a cardiologist, there are some tricks they tell you to lead your life properly, or whenever you might have read your maths or physics, they will teach you some fundamentals, some very tricky things. And if you understand that properly, you really do not have to read a lot and get something by heart, because there are certain tricks of the trade which is kept on certain things, and only the experts can give that. And that's why Krishna is saying, Manmana bhavamat bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. So that's the second point. The first thing is, it is kept right in the center, right in a safe deposit box, right in the center of the entire Bhagavad Gita, because it is most confidential. And second is, it is so emphasizing that Krishna repeats this again and again, right in the middle and right at the end. That means whenever there is something which is kept to the end, that means when he is leaving the audience from the impact of Bhagavad Gita, he wants people or his devotees to understand the importance of this verse. So let's try to break this verse down into what he's saying, the essence of the verse. So here Krishna is saying what you should do to come to me. What are the things you have to do? So Krishna is saying, engage your mind, always thinking of me. That's one thing he's saying, which is pretty much manmana bhava mad bhakto. Then he goes on to say that you have to become my devotee. So to understand Krishna, or to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, you cannot understand by being a politician, by being a mathematician, by being something else. You have to become a devotee. In order to understand a father, the sentiment of a father, you need to become a son or a daughter so that you could understand it directly. By being an outsider, you cannot understand the mood of a father. Likewise, in order to understand the Supreme Master, you have to be devoted. Without understanding the devotee, that's why there are many people, Srila Prabhupada, in the first page of the 3 pages we read in this purport, very nicely puts that there are people who have confused Bhagavad Gita because they are not devotees. They're politicians. There are politicians who have written Bhagavad Gita, and they go on by virtue of their clout. They make it their Bhagavad Gita as the bestsellers, but they do not understand that in order to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you need to be a devotee. Without being a devotee, you cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what Krishna is saying. The third thing Krishna is saying is pay obeisances to me. Namaskuru. Do namaskar to Krishna. Every morning, every time you offer some bhoga, every time you go to bed, offer obeisances unto Krishna. And the last thing is saying, worship me. So Krishna here is not saying, worship this demigod, or worship that demigod. Krishna is very clearly saying, worship me. So this should be very clear in our mind that Krishna wants all of us to worship him. So this looks like a very confusing thing, because if a Supreme Personality of Godhead is trying to say worship him, then he is emphasizing that when you are worshiping the other demigods, you would not get the full benefit because they are not capable of giving benefit to you. Those demigods have very specific power. You know, for example, one demigod, he is part of the rain. If you only pray him, the only thing he can give is rain. He cannot give everything else. So do not worship demigods, worship me. And there are some details we'll go into, but here Krishna is giving a very simple two-line, is engaging your mind, always thinking of me. So what does that truly mean? Engaging your mind, always thinking of me. Like, say, for example, if a mother wants to feed the child, what does the mother do? The mother tries to prepare some items and give, but by virtue of some reaction the kid may have, the kid may not like certain things. So the mother engages her mind in changing or tweaking the menu or the dish so that the kid, for example, if he's allergic to nuts, not to put nuts. She may be putting nuts, but then once she recognizes that there is a issue with nuts with the kid and the kid may be allergic, she changes. And then certain type of other vegetables he or she may be allergic to. So then gradually the mother engages her mind in giving. So engaging your mind is a sense of love, and bhakti is all about love. Without love, there is no bhakti, and there's no bhakti without love. So the first line about engaging your mind is always about giving love. Mother Yashoda was constantly thinking of Krishna, and whenever the milk she is boiling, she is getting from the cows which are given the best grasses in the world so that it makes the sweetest of the milk. When the milk is overflowing with the heat, Mother Yashoda used to constantly think of Krishna, because in his constant thinking process, she becomes so forgetful that she gets so much engaged in the thinking of Krishna that she forgets that the boiled milk is getting overflowing. So the engaging your mind is like, say, for example, if you do not engage your mind into Krishna, what are you going to engage yourself? You'll probably engage yourself in CNN. You'll probably engage yourself in movies. And these things are so distracting. They affect your consciousness to so much difficult degree that it is very difficult to focus or stay engaged in mind. So nowadays, if you look at the jobs and the recruiting process, when a recruiter calls someone to interview, the first thing he or she looks for is how engaging you are, how focused you are. So whenever you engage your mind, focused, like Arjuna could only see the pinpointed middle of the eye when he was planning to shoot, when Dronacharya was asking, Arjuna, what are you seeing? Perfect engagement. So when you engage yourself with the Supreme, your focusing capability will increase and you will end up doing well in your jobs. And then the question becomes, if you are not devoted to Krishna, you'll probably become devoted to something, to, talking about somebody, prajalpa, or, going around eating something here and there. And then if you do not offer obeisances to Krishna, you'll probably end up paying obeisances to demigods who cannot fulfill everything. And then Krishna is saying, worship me. Krishna is not saying, worship this demigod. Krishna is not saying, worship this demigod. So it is very clear from the Supreme Personality of Godhead that this is the confidential knowledge, which has to be, it's very simple to understand, but it's very difficult to practice. Actually, if you are simple enough, you will definitely understand this in an easy way. But if a person is complicated, he will have tremendous amount of ego and will never understand it properly. So when you think about my body, right? When you are saying my body, so that means, so when you say my phone, so that means there is a difference between my and phone. Likewise, whenever you say my body, that means body is different. And here, Srila Prabhupada goes on to say, Dehi. Dehi means which is embodying the body. That means, what is that? That is nothing but soul. So here, when Srila Prabhupada goes on to write that Krishna's body is not material, it's spiritual. But our body is not just me, because our body is not part of who the originator of the body is. Who is the originator of this body in this example? That's the soul. And where does soul come from? Soul comes from Krishna. That means this body is truly not ours, it's material. And once, after 80, 90, whatever number of years we end up living, well, the body will still be there, but we will not be there. That's the difference, what Srila Prabhupada is saying. So, and then, in order to engage your mind, becoming a devotee, offering obeisances to Krishna and worshipping Krishna. So the detail layer, which is explained in Hari Bhakti Vilas, is anukulyasya sankalpa. That means we have to be favorably disposed in our desire of God. So that means when the example given is Kanksha in this example, in the purport. Kanksha was constantly thinking of Krishna. He was very engaged with Krishna, but he was engaged to kill Krishna. So he was not favorable, he was unfavorable. Uttara was constantly thinking of Krishna, but the intent was not favorably disposed. He or she, Kamsa or Putana, they wanted to kill Krishna. So Krishna's desire should be your desire. So to desire only in accordance with the desire of God. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam. That means anything which is favorable to Krishna, do that. That will help you engaged spiritually with the Supreme Personality of God. And then reject that is not in favor of devotion. So anything which is taking you away, anything which is taking you away from chanting, anything which is taking you away from reading scriptures, just abandon that, reject that. We are not saying it. Hari Bhakti Vilas is saying, because the principle is laid by Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and there are many scriptures which gives the detail from the acharyas. Then the faith that God will surely protect me. This is a very important thing. You know, if you think about bad things happening to you, there are people who thinks there are bad things has been happening to me, you know, how Lord is partial. Then when 6 of them got together on a table and they started talking about the sad things which has happened to them, then you end up realizing that your sadness is nothing in comparison to any of them. So the faith that Krishna is going to protect is a thing. There are many examples in Srila Prabhupada's life where Srila Prabhupada came in a, now it takes less than 28 days to come to US from India, but Srila Prabhupada took close to a month to come. And during that time, there was tremendous faith that if Krishna has to protect him or Krishna has to kill him, he is going to do that as a service. So when you are not entitled, when you do not have the power of proprietorship, when you think that you are doing it at the action of Krishna, then you lose touch whether you are benefited or not benefited. You are just doing your job. You may be successful, you may not be successful. Whether if you're successful, it's an offering to Krishna. If it is unsuccessful, it's an offering to Krishna. So there is nothing personal to say that, Lord is going to protect me or not. And always maintain an attitude of gratitude towards God. So what that means is, this beautiful universe we're living, it's created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the Karnadakshaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Kirodakshaya Vishnu. And we're living here, but we're not paying taxes. So our ability to pay taxes has to do with our engagement with Krishna in the form of giving devotional service. So if we have that attitude of gratitude that we are living in this beautiful world created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then this problem of entitlement, problem of proprietorship will never come. We are living in this country, we are paying whatever, 20, 25, 30, 35% tax based on your income. You're paying tax here. And for that, you abide by April 15th or whatever it may be in US to pay taxes. And you're happy to do that. But when it comes to paying taxes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who created this beautiful world with trees and rivers and beautiful place, beautiful nature, then we do not have that attitude of gratitude. And then the fifth thing, to see everything we possess as belonging to God, because this has been a handiwork of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has created different people in different sectors in different countries. So everything which is happening is the cause, because that without his direction, the leaf cannot move. So our attitude of gratitude can only become strengthened if we think that whatever is happening is, see everything as if it is possessed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then when we end up doing this surrender thing, then the Saranagati or the surrender, you may get puffed up. That, hey, I'm such a devotee, I'm such a humble devotee. Feeling that you are humble is also puffed upness. So humility is one when you think yourself less, not less of yourself, that is meek, but when you think yourself less in everything, that if you have surrendered, think that, what is there to be surrendered? Feel that you're doing it less. You've done something, you built a temple or whatnot, but thinking that this is the handiwork of God, and this is and having that building of the capability of surrenderness is so fascinating that you are not incurring any karmic reaction, and then not have the pride that you have inculcated, that humility. Humility has to be experienced. Humility doesn't have to be shown to others. So those are the 6 detailed orientation on how to surrender to Krishna. And just to shed some light between these 2 verses, as you can see, the first line, which is the first 2 lines of the verse, Manvana Bhav Bhakta Madhyajivan Maskuru, is identical between 18.65 and 9.34. Then the second line, which Mam Avises Evasesi Yukteva Atmanam Mat Parayana, and then Mam Avisesi Satyamte Parijane Priyosime. That means towards the beginning in the 9th chapter, which is this verse, Krishna is giving emphasis for everybody. But then in the 18th chapter, he is referring to Arjuna, who is very dear to him. who is priyosime. That means he is becoming very personal when he's trying to end the Bhagavad Gita. So that is the only difference. If you try to analyze, Srila Prabhupada asked us not to read his books, but to study his books. So when you look at the 9th chapter and 18th chapter, so the confidentiality is there right in the middle, and confidentiality is there right at the end when Krishna is about to end Bhagavad Gita. And there Krishna is referring to Arjuna as he's very dear, he's a very dear friend. And the only way you can come to Krishna without fail is if you just think of me, become a devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Exactly identical first two lines, but slightly different third and fourth lines. In the 9th verse, it has to be referred to the global audience, but in the 18th chapter, it is referred to Arjuna himself with a very personalized manner. So Krishna is personal. Krishna is very personal, and we have to understand that a personality can only be loved by coming up with a relationship. And the relationship can only be established through a parampara. Evam parampara prapta. This knowledge, this transcendental knowledge, can only be understood through parampara. Without the parampara, the knowledge or the relationship cannot be there. Because often you'll see that by you getting married to somebody, or your wife getting married to someone, you get related because the relationship gets established through parampara, and through the disciplic succession, through this parampara, we can only understand the transcendental knowledge. Otherwise, we will be in disarray trying to recognize, because when you are not knowledgeable enough on something, there is darkness, and within the darkness there can be errors, and you will not understand the right way, as Srila Prabhupada is saying in his purport. So to understand from a bona fide source is very critical, because the source is important. The source is Krishna, but the chain of knowledge acquisition and knowledge dissipation happens through parampara, and without that, it's not going to help. So very simple process, very simple to implement, but we have to have tremendous faith on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is why we all are together. We are in different phase of our sadhana. And what a verse to end our discussion. I'll now open for some question, comments, reflections, and discussion, so that we understand your realization about this beautiful verse and try to exchange something by which we can take it back and recharge your next 5-6 days of week, and then get better in understanding the Supreme. With that, I'd like to end here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Him Jagannath Prabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna Prabhu ji. Dandavat pranam to all Vaishnavas also. Can you hear me, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Prabhuji. Summarized very well. The surrender part is what the 6 aspects of the surrender, Prabhuji. That's very appropriate. My thanks for enlightening us, Prabhuji. The last slide caught my eye, Prabhuji. So the 9.34 to 18.64. So 9.34 65, sorry, 65 Prabhuji. 9.34 is a starting point. Is a proposition, like how we say, Prabhuji, whenever we pitch some sale or we do some business, we try to pitch it first, right? That this is what you. So Krishna is telling that you will come to me, right? And in the end, in 18.65, Prabhuji, in the 18.65, Krishna says that you, by doing this, same, always think of me, be my devotee, worship me, pay homage to me. That is same between the 34 and 65, Prabhuji. But the end result is, the starting point is that you will come to me. The ending point is you will become very dear friend. So that is the path we have to traverse, Prabhuji. We have to traverse from 934 to 1865. And the path is what you laid out, Prabhuji, is through surrender to our 6 Goswamis. So my reflections on that are, Prabhuji, that how to traverse this path. Surrender is definitely in the 6 aspects. First, we have to be mindful, Prabhuji. The main thing is, as you have told, the first point is we have to be mindful of Krishna. That yes, in whatever action we are doing, is this in according with the Sadhu Shastra and Sangha, the scriptures, right? Is it what Krishna will do if he? So that mindful is the most important point, Prabhuji. We may think that we are doing something, but it may not be in line with the Krishna consciousness, right? So that, and the second point we have to, once we are mindful, then the second process is, Prabhuji, ego, false ego. The same points we might be talking and repeating, Prabhuji, but I'm just trying to correlate. The second, how to traverse, is the false ego. The moment we think that we are different from Krishna, that's why he says, and that I promise that you are my dear friend. How can we become his dear friend? The main thing which obstructs between two people, the dichotomy, is basically the difference of opinion. And why the difference of opinion comes is because of the false ego, Prabhu. So we have to overcome our false ego. Everything, as you have rightly told, everything is for our benefit. Whatever is happening, whatever circumstance we are in, right? Whatever interactions we are having with Vaishnavas and other non-devotees and non-devotees, everything is, Krishna knows everything, Prabhuji. We differentiate as devotee and non-devotee, but Krishna, he doesn't discriminate between devotee and non-devotee. For him, he may be little oriented towards devotee, but he makes some things happen to us through non-devotees also. He's trying to give us some lessons or some moral or some message, Prabhuji. That is what, so we have to be mindful of that, and the false ego. And the third, sorry, somebody was trying. And the third point is, Prabhuji, once we have this, we overcome our ego, and we should not, well, the moment we don't work for ourselves, Prabhuji, means work for ourselves in the sense we don't have any vested interest in it. We may have vested interest, but we have to direct the vested interest, keeping Krishna in the center. That is the only way we can become his dear friend. Okay, I'm going to earn money for my family, for maintenance, but earning money shouldn't be our primary aim. How can I serve Krishna while doing what I'm supposed to do? Because we are supposed to do something in this world, Prabhuji. So we have to do, but that should be devoted to the Krishna consciousness, to Krishna.
Absolutely.
So, and the last point which I wanted to tell, Prabhuji, is this traversing this path is, so we are mindful of ego, and we have dovetailed it we have put Krishna in the center. I forgot my train of thought, Prabhuji. So that is what I was, when this slide helped me a lot, Prabhuji, for where you are comparing this. It will come to me while other devotees will be discussing, but this is what I wanted to share, Prabhu.
Yeah,
Hare
very nice,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Thank you so much. So as Prabhuji mentioned, manmana, the mind is the main thing. The mind wanders, and we have to be mindful that there is somebody who has created this, and Krishna is saying we have to be mindful of Krishna. So being mindful is very important. But the mind, body, like when you think about those three things, there is always a triangle, right? You have the body, you have the mind, and you have the soul. So this body, mind, and soul are things which are very interdependent. They are like triangle. In triangle, you have every part touching every other part. So the body, mind, soul, PMS, if you want to call it, for your edification, is very important. So you have to use your body, which is actually Prabhuji's third point, which is dovetailing everything to Krishna, earn money, but spend it for Krishna in the temple, body, mind, chanting, reading, purifying ourselves, and these two things are eventually cleansing our soul. That we so the vested interest is one thing, but in terms of having that vested interest, you are helping a bigger cause. See, whenever there is advancement, or like a road is getting built, or a big overbridge is getting built, I'm sure there are people who are getting jobs. So there is definitely some advancement in financially in terms of people who are working there, but it is for a bigger cause. Likewise, the principle is you don't have to go to Himalayas. You have to stay in the confines of Grihastha, which is actually ashram, Grihastha ashram, and end up going to do your job, get the outcome, and then use that in whatever capacity for Krishna, so that you'd be mindful that this job I have to do it well. So by having mindfulness in the sense that you're basically not working for yourself, you're working for Krishna, you will do better in your job. So that's the thing. And then as you mingle with devotees, then you try to compare and contrast. Then your ahankar, which is the Maya potency of the Lord, comes into picture, and then you get distorted. So that's why they say that Krishna consciousness process is an experience. It is not a goal that, okay, I have achieved this. We have achieved nothing actually, because it's a journey, and we just have to keep going, keep going, keep going. And you may have niceties, but this ahankar, which Prabhuji's second point was, may distort things. So whenever you think you have left your karmic life and you have joined spiritual life, but then you start mingling with the temple, mingling with devotees, then you start comparing whether you are management-wise, are you advancing? That really kills your spiritual appetite. And that is what Prabhuji talked about, ahankar. Then your individual goal comes into picture, your greater goal doesn't come into picture. And then you have to dovetail everything. So like I remember when in 1992, we had a ISO release of our company. We basically took the entire theater. There are like 3,000 people from all around the world who came, and they said, okay, this company has got the ISO certification. And the person who was driving that said, getting ISO certification is difficult, but maintaining ISO certification is more difficult. So Krishna consciousness is not an end game. It's an experience. And it's not something you have achieved. You're doing 16 rounds, it ends there. There's constant refinement in terms of how to do better chanting, quality of chanting, crying for Krishna. As you put more years into Krishna consciousness, you'll realize that a time will come. That's why Haldar Maharaj said, for Krishna, we have to try, we have to cry, and we have to pray. If we do this, then those stages are not going to happen. Just by chanting now, you're not going to cry. Now we are pretty much in a trying stage. So trying, praying, and crying are going to happen. So it's a journey, and we all are part of different stages in our pursuit of Krishna consciousness. So thank you. If anybody wants to add.
One more point which I remember, Prabhuji, the mindful comes because we are always mindful, Prabhuji, but we are mindful of either Maya, or we can be mindful of Krishna. So that is we can as Prabhupada always says, either we serve Maya, we serve something always. Our mind, if we are awake, we serve something, Prabhuji. So if we serve Krishna, then we won't serve Maya. It's mutually exclusive. But if we serve Maya, then we won't serve Krishna. So that was the fourth point, Prabhuji, which I wanted to tell, to traverse this journey, the starting point in 934 to 1865. Thank you, Prabhuji.
And that is where you talked about, if you don't serve Krishna, you'll serve Maya. If you leave your glass half filled, you'll have an appetite to either put something which is not desirable, which is unfavorable. If the glass is always filled, your time is always filled with chanting, hearing, doing kirtan, doing devotional service, basically, then there is no place in your life to really have an appetite to do something wrong. And that's the reason why, as you rightly said, if you don't serve Krishna, you'll end up serving Maya, and it will take you in the wrong direction, in the southwards. So always fill yourself with devotional service as much as possible. Anything else?
I have one more point, but I will talk later, Prabhuji. Let other devotees speak.
Any other comments, Prabhu? Any reflection from anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I don't know if this is the questioning session now. Since as Prabhuji and you were telling that any duty we do, that it might either be contributed to Maya or it might either be contributed to Krishna consciousness. How do we identify that? By asking ourselves and saying, who is this serving each and every activity we do, or something like that?
Yeah, good question, Prabhu. So the question is, what is the yardstick that an activity you end up doing, whether it is towards Maya or it's towards Krishna? That's your question, right, Mataji?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, thank you. So what happens is whenever we end up doing a journey in our spiritual path, there are some tricks. Like when we all came to Krishna consciousness, we all were wearing pant and shirt. Then we had an innovation, actually. How can I end up wearing dhoti? Never ever in my life I had worn dhoti in a public place. What to talk about wearing dhoti in New York City during Rath Yatra? This is unthinkable. There is tremendous innovation. Then ability to wake up very early in the morning, tremendous innovation. But as you associate with devotees, you realize that when we go to office, there is an etiquette, there is an appearance. You dress either to the dress code the office has, whether it is smart casual or whether it is the business casual or whether it is very formal, and you abide by that. Likewise, when you start mingling, associating with devotees, you realize that spiritualism also has some attributes, but that attribute is not enforced like in office. In office, if you do not wear, you can't do the job. But here, Krishna, Lord Jagannath, Gaur Nitai, they are so merciful that they will allow you. But gradually, with sincere love, you will have the appetite to change. So in this example, as you can see, that as your love increases, as your ruchi increases, you'll realize that I want to be one among them. Like say, for example, when you go home, your mom realizes that the kid has come and she likes certain items. Even if the mom doesn't like to make kheer, which is sweet and it is bad for her in diabetes, but she will make kheer for you because you like kheer, for example. So likewise, whenever love is going to be there, you'll have a natural propensity to change. So we should not pressurize ourselves. So a yardstick is if something is taking us closer in our quality of chanting, in our ability to come to temple regularly, something I did which is making me come to temple regularly, that means it's working. That's the trick. If something is taking us away, we are lazy, feeling lazy enough, and we are not going. So maybe we should try to avoid that. So it's a very simple yardstick which we all can experience in our lives and accordingly tweak or change so that we get closer to Krishna and to start doing devotional service. As you start doing devotional service, you will realize how much pleasing it is, because when you end up doing work for yourself, you are very much tuned to the success of it. But when you are trying to do devotional service, as you're doing for the Supreme, you are not tuned to the success of it, but you are tuned to doing it for somebody special. So that's the difference. So the yardstick can be experienced, and if it is unfavorable, you'll realize that that is taking you towards Maya, else it is taking you towards Krishna. I don't know if I answered your question.
Super, Prabhu. Yeah, you answered. Thank you, Prabhuji.
I want to add one point to Prabhuji's Mataji. If you are, say you are feeding the kid, Mataji, you are feeding the kid. If you are thinking that if you are thinking about Krishna while feeding the kid, of course the kid is hungry, you are feeling as a mother, that's a motherly feeling. But on top of it, if you are thinking, if I'm feeding baby Krishna, automatically you are putting Krishna in the center. You are remembering Krishna in a favorable way, not like in a Kamsa way, but in a favorable way. So any action you are doing, you are trying to put Krishna. Okay, will this action will be supported by Guru, Shastra and Sangha? Maybe it's a very intricate to figure out, is it Guru, Shastra and Sangha? But general, we can get a guess that if I was doing this for my kid, will I do this or not? Right? That is a very simple yardstick. If I'm doing it for my parents, will I do this or not? If that action will tell whether it is you are supporting Maya or you are supporting Krishna Mother. It has there is no harm in serving your family because that is your primary dharma, and the only thing is you have to just shift some gears. You have to keep Krishna in the center, that's all. But do your duty, whatever is assigned to you by the mother nature and by your situation. So that is, so keep, the moment you keep in the center, the Maya has to be displaced.
Okay.
So
yeah,
that is the approach, Mataji. The starting approach for a neophyte. That's how we will all see that will this be right? If I'm doing this for Krishna, is this right? For example, you may feed, you'll try to make yourself clean, right? You'll clean up yourself and then start your day, right? So that you can feed your kid. Similarly, because if we have to do for the DT also, we do the same, right? So that is how we would see Mataji.
Prabhuji, from what you told, it is easy to implement that concept with people whom we already love, Prabhuji. But there are some people in the family itself where we might not get along with. I don't know how to put.
Mataji. Start with the people you love. Automatically, you'll traverse. You'll get strength, and your consciousness is modified, Mataji. In the process, when you are keeping Krishna in the center, your consciousness is modified. That automatically your interaction with the other members also will automatically alter to some extent, Mataji. Like Krishna is there in their heart, Krishna will mold them also, so that because you are making the endeavor to please Krishna, he will definitely make an endeavor to alter their consciousness so that At least it's going average rather than the below average earlier, right?
Okay.
So start with the people you love, Mataji, and you'll start remembering Krishna basically. The moment you remember Krishna, your consciousness will be altered and it will be favorable to you only.
Okay, Prabhuji. I will try. I should try. Yeah,
It's
Prabhuji.
as Prabhuji told, it's a journey, Mataji. It's not a like a what we call digital. Yes or no, it's not digital. It's a journey that, and we have to traverse this journey. And while traversing this journey, our dialysis of the consciousness keeps happening. So
Okay.
you'll start realizing, okay, this is how I was thinking earlier, but now this is how I should think. So there is a transformation, Mataji, and it takes time. It's not an overnight thing, right? So
Okay.
keep working on it. We all have to work. We all are working on it. That's what Prabhupada's, if we just follow the principles of ABCD of Prabhupada, we will be more closer to Krishna. Will we be the best person or not? No, no worries, but we'll be closer to Krishna than where we started.
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Very
Thank you
nice.
both, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice discussion. Mataji, you touched on something about relatives. So it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita that we are independent souls. When you get hungry, you eat and you quench your hunger. Likewise, your relatives, when they get hungry, they got thirsty. So we are individual spirit souls. So your connection is not through the relatives. It's a very temporary relationship. It's 50 years, 60 years, 100 years. But your relationship is with the Supreme. So if they are not favorable, we can only pray. And sometimes if you're spending a lot of time with them, by virtue of your achar, they may transform. But they are also subjected to their association. And we do not have a control. We do not have the proprietorship of their life. So it is very difficult. I know exactly what you're saying, because we try to think that Krishna consciousness would be so fine if everybody in my family, my father, mother, father-in-law, mother-in-law, everybody becomes Krishna conscious. Won't it be a wonderful place? And you're not alone. And Srila Prabhupada is epitomization of that. You know, he had challenges from his family as well, but it didn't stop him from extending his relationship with the Supreme, and what an example he set up. So a lot to learn from Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrit book, and you can just pray for your family members, and you shouldn't lose heart at all, because it's their life. If they are hungry, they eat. If the Krishna consciousness, they are not really taking up, they are not favorable to you, you can just pray for him.
Yeah, that's
But
a
you
good
should,
example, Prabhuji, what you gave. I forgot about Srila Prabhupada itself. Thinking about his challenges, mine is nothing only. But thank you for reminding me, Prabhuji.
yes,
That is definitely there.
thank you, everyone. Others not hearing a lot. So is this verse where we are ending? We'll be starting chapter 10 next week, and we have a lot of events. I'm sharing everything in the WhatsApp group. So any question or comments or reflection from this verse? This verse is something we have to start living our life. It's a very simple process, but more we kind of internalize this verse in our life is going to be very good for us in our spiritual progress. So any other comments from anybody, or we are going to end here? So Rohit Prabhu, you have been very regular in the last 2 weeks. I hope you're finding our discussion engaging.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. A lot of good points to think over. Thank you.
And are you getting our information from the WhatsApp group or your?
No, Prabhuji, I'm not part of the WhatsApp group.
If you can sort of send a message to me, I will add you to the group. That will be so nice.
Sure, Prabhuji.
So if we do not have any other question or comments, we can end here. We are so thankful for your participation and your engagement in this very powerful verse. I'd like to offer you pay our obeisances on the lotus feet of all the Vaishnavas who have joined
Before
together.
you end, can you just give 1 minute or a half minute, 30 seconds
Sure,
on the book?
definitely.
On the book you are talking in the WhatsApp, Prabhuji, by Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj on Narsimha Bhagwan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for those who do not know, Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj lives in Mayapur. He was born in Jagannath Puri. He comes up with some amazing books all the time. And during Gaur Purnima, his new book got released. The name of the book, as Prabhuji is alluding to, is The Pastime of Nrsimha, which is essentially a fine timing, considering Nrsimha's appearance day is coming on the 15th of May. So there is a book, we're trying to get the shipment of the hardbound books. It's a beautiful book as a gift or for yourself to read. It'll probably be around $20. Maharaj, I'm in touch with Maharaj's manager to get a bulk book to New Jersey, so that if any of you are interested, you can pick up your copy and you can pay separately. So it's a beautiful book. Prabhuji touched on the announcement of that book in our Bhakti Vriksha, and the book is released, and it's a beautiful book based on some of the references I see in the front page and second page. So if you're interested, you can reach out to me separately. I can note down your name and number, and when the book arrives, I'll contact you to sort of take your copy. Is that what you're referring to, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes. And also, since you are mentioning Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj, you can tell one line about the tribal ICT, Prabhuji, also. That way our devotees will know what endeavors he is doing.
Absolutely. So, as you know, Prabhuji and Mataji, there is a lot of conversion happening in India. There has been people in the tribal areas who are having challenges in their life, in their spiritual progress. Even if you think about some of the scriptures, whether you talk about Bali, Angad, and Sugriv, they lived in the forest, but they were very devotional. And likewise, our tribes are very devotional. Some of the experiences they have said. So we have a ministry within ISKCON called India Tribal Care, and India Tribal Care is headed by His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj in the various different tribal areas in Northeast, Assam, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Jharkhand, Bihar, Tripura, Arunachal Pradesh. You can go to India Tribal Care, you Google it, and you'll find ample information and the kind of work they end up doing there. You cannot even reach within a two-wheeler, forget about a car or a flight. They're going, sometimes you'll see Maharaj, there will be two people carrying Maharaj on a bamboo stick, like Maharaj on a rope. Maharaj will be carried forward in villages. So the kind of reaching the end of doing the difficult nook and corners they're trying to reach to spread Krishna consciousness is amazing. Even this is mesmerizing when you think about, and it's not new. I think you may have known, but as Prabhuji has touched on it, you can search for India Tribal Care, and if you want to help in any way, India Tribal Care, you can reach out to Prabhuji, Ratnakar Prabhu, or Dhira Govinda Prabhu, who is actually professing a lot of help, because Akshaya Tritiya is coming. The day you do some devotional service gets multiplied. Akshaya Tritiya is a beautiful day to do charitable contributions, and so on, which is there and how nicely they are opening up schools, they are opening up educational activities, spreading spiritual progress to curb.
Also employment, Prabhuji. They are providing employment like small scale in the like small cottage industry type. They're doing, they're not just only religion, but they're also trying to engage them in cottage industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll try to share the website in the WhatsApp group, and it'll be wonderful for all of us to recognize. See why there is. So the conversion, as it's happening in needy neighborhoods, but also the conversion is happening in the top echelons of the human society in the Sanatan Dharma, because we are not very passionate about what Ramji did, what Krishna did, what Hanumanji did. We are not very, some people you'll see by the hep culture, they're not very fascinated by the prowess some of our prior ancestors had. And they do not know who Ram is. They do not know who Hanuman is. Because of the dwindling intelligence of the masses, people are not really fascinated by the origin. That's why they don't care whether they are part of this or that. See, Srila Prabhupada said, ISKCON is not about conversion. We want Muslims to be better Muslims. We want Christians to be better Christians. We want Hindus to be better Hindus. So it's all about following the cause, but we are against this forced. So Indian tribal care, in addition to spiritual progress, is doing a lot of other additional work like cottage industry and things like that. And they're becoming wonderful devotees. They're becoming very, very powerful devotees in their sadhana to Krishna consciousness. So something I'll share in the WhatsApp group, and thank you. Just to put a context around the Indian tribal care and Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj, which Prabhu reached. And by the way, Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj will be in our Zoom channel on the 15th of May, speaking on our Sunday morning Bhagavatam class. I'm going to share the flyer for that as well. So, and he used to come to our temple every year before the COVID, and hopefully we'll get his association personally when he comes next time. And if he's around, we can get the books you take from his, signed by the author himself. But I don't know what the plans are for them. So lot to talk about. You know, I can go on and on about Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj and the kind of work he is doing in ISKCON. It's actually a bona fide ministry within ISKCON. It's a recognized ministry called India Tribal Care. Okay, Prabhuji, anything else? Anybody wants to add and comment?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for enlightening us on this. And I wanted to just add one point, that what you told, Prabhuji, and what Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj is doing is he's propagating the Sanatan Dharma knowledge, Prabhuji, which we are losing at a very rapid speed. We are losing. We are on the decline of the grasp of that knowledge. So that is the main emphasis what we are doing, Prabhuji, what Maharaj is doing. So we should take cognizance of that, and we as however we can help him, that would be great. We are doing Prabhupada's mission technically.
Definitely.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So we'll end here. It's a great discussion forum, this great connection forum, because devotees are related not by this link we have, this 10 people. We do not have any linkage. Our relationship to each other is through the Supreme. We are here together because we want to discuss a little bit about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rohit Prabhu wants to discuss about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhakti Ratnakar Prabhu, Anuradha Mataji, Niranjan Prabhu. So we all are connected not by a matrix form. We are connected through a higher cost chain, which is why our relationship, if you think about, we do not have any personal expectation, which is why the devotee relationship is the purest form of relationship. It is often better than a parent relationship, because there is no expectation. There's no expectation. The relationship is with the Supreme, for which the relationship is beyond 100 years, 200 years, thousands years, because it's a soul-to-soul relationship. So we should try to foster that much as possible. But there are bad apples as well. But we need to really try to strengthen this relationship, because we're talking and hearing. We may not be the best, but we are hearing the literature which is spoken by the best person in the whole world, Krishna. So we can't go much wrong here, actually, if you think about it. So hope you'll join regularly, and when we have a small group, it's always better to connect and communicate. So let's end here. We want to pay obeisances in the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas by saying,
পতিতানাং পাবনেভ্যো বৈষ্ণবেভ্যো নমো নমঃ। অনন্ত কোটি বৈষ্ণব মাতাজি প্রভু পূজ্য, অনন্ত কোটি বৈষ্ণব বৃন্দ পূজ্য। হরি বল। Thank you, Prabhu. Nice class, Prabhu.
Thank you.